Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a great show for you today. We're going to start out with Nancy Pelosi. I know that's kind of rough in the morning or rough late night, depending on when you're watching the show. But Nancy Pelosi is facing a mutiny of sorts within the Democratic ranks of her House. And we'll talk about that. And then there's basically a poll out there, and I call it a poll, although it's not actually a poll, that I believe you can bank on. And it's about gun sales and how they're skyrocketing. We'll talk a little bit about that. And if we have time, we're going to get to Biden and Kamala Harris. They both, over the course of the last several days, spoke the truth, and it is a shocking truth, but not really a surprising truth, and I'll explain that in just a few moments. But we start out with just a reminder of our sponsor here. We're live from Gainesville, Florida at the BDU, which is Big Daddy Unlimited Studios. They're our sponsor, and I thank them very much. Big Daddy, you know who you are. But Big Daddy Unlimited, if you want it, we're going to have a Second Amendment story in the second part of our show. If you want to get anything Second Amendment related, from guns and ammo to tactical gear to swag to everything in between, thousands of items literally shipped direct to your door, check out our sponsor. It's Big Daddy Unlimited. Go look at the top of our show, above wherever you're watching our video. There's a description of our show, and in there is a sponsorship link. Click on that. For 99 cents the first month, virtually a free trial, you have access to factory direct pricing on anything from guns and ammo right on down the line. And then after that, it's $10 a month. Cancel at any time, and a portion of those proceeds go to John Martin Talks and help us to expand what we're doing here. So check it out. Thank you very much. All right, let's get on with the story. This first story is a Politico article. Pelosi faces growing Democratic unrest over COVID relief. And man, if that meme is not one of the truest memes you've ever seen up there, because Nancy Pelosi, I mean, she has really been exposed over the last several months with coronavirus. I mean, obviously with the video of her not wearing a mask and violating the law out there in San Francisco to get her hair done. And I guess we ought to be grateful that she gets it done, because I'd hate to see her without any makeup or hairdo. I mean, that would be scary. But think about that meme for a minute. Basically, she's saying, if I don't get what I want, you're not going to get what you want. So she puts herself, that's one of the things I've told you. One of the things I'll say from time to time is that if you want to understand a person, sometimes you have to get to their core belief, if you will. There's some core thing about them that basically will clarify all their decisions once you understand that. And with Nancy Pelosi, it is power. She is consumed with her own position and power. Her decisions, every single one of them, even the impeachment of the President of the United States, is based solely on her holding on to her position. Because remember, she was opposed to, even though let me just tell you, she was never opposed to impeaching President Trump. She was always in favor of it. She just didn't think it was in her best interest to do so. But once it became clear that if she didn't do something, that somebody like Ocasio-Cortez would be the Speaker of the House, she was all ready to impeach Donald Trump. She will do anything to preserve her position, including not passing corona relief funds for the American people. And we'll get into that right now. Speaker Nancy Pelosi faces growing calls from within her own ranks, including from some of her most vulnerable members, to take quick action on a coronavirus relief bill, even if there's no agreement with Republicans or the White House over the issue. So basically, she's got members saying, look, we need to pass something, even if it doesn't pass the Senate and the House, in order for us to get a message out there to the American people before the election that we do care. And Nancy is not about that. The Senate has already, Republican-controlled Senate, and basically endorsed by President Trump, has already pushed out a new coronavirus relief bill. But of course, the Nancy and her crew call it a skinny version because it doesn't basically fund their pet projects. The Republican proposal puts money directly in the pocket of American workers and American businesses and that type of thing, and doesn't have all the fluff that the Democratic proposal has. But the Democrats under Nancy's leadership are holding out. So there is a mutiny brewing within the House, and it consists of Democrats essentially that got elected, that gave Nancy her position because they got elected and took Republican seats, previously held Republican seats in 2018, and they feel threatened by the presidential election. And I don't blame them, and we'll give you some of the numbers to back that up in just a moment. Billy Bob here tells me to get on with the story. Billy Bob is my psychic sidekick. If you haven't seen him before, if you're new to the show, first of all, howdy, how are you? Where you been? But you're in the right place. The truth, as a good buddy of mine always says, starts right now. Billy Bob is my psychic sidekick. He has a Twitter handle. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. But he kind of keeps me straight here. But Pelosi, supported by her leadership team and most committee chairs, is refusing to back down from her demands for a bipartisan $2.2 trillion plus stimulus package to boost the U.S. economy, which Republicans have repeatedly dismissed. Now, they've put forward like a $500 billion package that would give immediate relief, but it is temporary. And we'll tell you some of the things that are in the Democratic package here in just a moment. But she uses the term bipartisan package. And if, as I say, if you're new to the show, you might not have heard this, but if I say it, it bears repeating. One of my axioms, if you will, here at John Martin Talks is that bipartisanship, words matter. And I understand what the textbook definition of bipartisanship is, but I'm telling you right now, bipartisanship, when it comes to Democrats and Republicans, always, and I emphasize always, means Republicans cave. In other words, Democrats never come towards the Republicans in a bipartisan way. It's the other way around. And I challenge you to show me a time when Republicans were for something, Democrats were against it, and Democrats caved into the Republicans. They never, ever do that. So when you hear the term bipartisanship, it simply means Republicans are either going to cave or expected to cave. Pelosi's stance is increasingly putting her at odds with moderate members of her caucus, some of whom are growing more vocal in their anger by the day and with less than 2 months before the election. Moderate members. I'm telling you right now, there are no moderate members. Give me a leader in the Democratic Party, in other words, a national figure in the Democratic Party that you would say is a moderate. And for God's sakes, don't give me Joe Biden. Joe Biden is many, many things. Moderate is not one of them. He's never really been a moderate, but he certainly is not now. I mean, he has totally adopted the Bernie Sanders Ocasio-Cortez ticket, basically. And I challenge you to show me where I'm wrong. There were no moderates running in the 2020 field, for that matter. I told you, if you've watched the show, I've said this, but back when the 2020 race still had like 50 people in it or whatever, it seemed like that, I said there were not a single moderate on that panel up there, on those debates. In fact, they were just varying degrees of hardcore leftists. And whoever, and I didn't think it was going to be Biden, be honest with you, but I said then, whoever came out of that field was going to be the most hardcore progressive, and in some cases maybe outright communist, that any major party had ever put forward for president. And I stand by that statement, with Joe Biden being the guy. There are no moderate members. Tell me some that are. Some of whom are growing more vocal in their anger by the day with less than 2 months before the election. So why are they angry? Well, anger is not really a prime emotion. They're scared, they're scared. Let me back up. Anger is a primary kind of emotion, but it manifests itself in fear. What exactly are they scared of? Well, here's some numbers that show you why they are scared. Back during 2018, when the supposed blue wave, which didn't take the Senate, by the way, when the Senate gained, so it was a partial wave, which was stopped cold turkey right here in Florida. And on a side note, did you follow our guy who would be Governor Andrew Gillum? He just came out of the closet in an interview a couple of days ago. I started to talk about that, but I find him a bit boring. But Andrew Gillum came out and said, I don't identify as gay, but I am bisexual, and everything. And he's trying to get back in politics. Let me sum up what Andrew Gillum, in case some of my Florida listeners or other listeners are wondering why he's rearing his head again. Yeah, of course he would love to run for public office again. That's unlikely, but he's trying to get some of that Bloomberg money. Bloomberg has committed to spending $100 million to defeat Donald Trump in the state of Florida. We can't let that happen. But Andrew Gillum, make no mistake about it, the reason he's rearing his head up is he smells money. And that's one thing. He talk about bisexual. He can buy a lot more sex with some money. So make no mistake about it. He is coming back on the scene, seeking forgiveness so he can get some of Bloomberg's money. But anyway, I digress. I do that from time to time. Regress, digress, ingress, egress. I do all kind of gressing. But Democrats back in 2018, they won 41 seats that were previously held by Republicans. And in most of those seats, if not all, Donald Trump won them handily in 2016. So the Democrats in those particular seats, especially the ones actually in those seats, are scared. As I say, if you're scared, say you're scared, because they, and rightfully so, believe that they are threatened by the presidential cycle and Donald Trump and his coattails retaking those seats. And I think that is highly likely. I was listening to some debates on the way into the show this morning, so to speak, on the radio, and I agreed with one of the things one of the pundits said. Whichever way the top of the ticket goes, in other words, if Trump wins re-election 4 more years, then I think it's that the Republicans will clearly hold on to the Senate, and there's a really good chance that they take the House. If Biden-Harris or Harris-Biden, and you'll know why I'm talking about that in just a minute, actually win, then there's a very good chance that they will control the entire 2 of the 3 branches. And heck, with Roberts on the Supreme Court, they might control all 3 branches of it. But I do believe whichever way the top of the ticket goes, it is very likely that that is the way the House and Senate will go. But here's an example of one of these scared folks in a district that Donald Trump previously helped a GOP House member win, and they're scared. A new one here. Representative Kathleen Rice, Democrat of New York, pressed Pelosi on why members wouldn't stay in town because they're supposed to go on a recess here. Stay in town waiting for a deal in which the speaker told her to take poll of your colleagues. In other words, they were on this big conference call, Zoom type call of some kind, and this congresswoman from New York was asking the speaker, why don't we stay and get the job done, and basically a compromise bill. And Pelosi said, ask the rest of the people on the call why they don't. And she said, and this according to Democrats on the call. And then Pelosi said something interesting. She said, I'm always here. In other words, I don't ever go home. And they say the exchange grew even stormier until Pelosi dropped off and put Steny Hoyer on her henchman. But I like the thing, and it's kind of funny and scary at the same time. Pelosi says, I'm always here. That's a bit scary, right? That she's always there lurking, kind of like the devil. They're always around, like sympathy for the devil. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. But let me just ask you, doesn't that statement that I'm always around, doesn't that creep you out enough? Do you need any more reason? I mean, I know a lot of you out there are going to vote for Donald Trump no matter what, but do you need any more reason to vote red come 2020, come November 3rd, than the fact that maybe we could, I'm not thinking we can defeat Pelosi, but certainly we can get her out of the speakership, man. We need a punishing election. We need to flush the toilet, so to speak, wash these Democrats out to sea, and be done with it, man. We definitely need what I call a punishing election. And speaking of washing out to sea, I want to say hopes and prayers to the people on the Gulf Coast, or from New Orleans basically to Mobile and even into Florida, that are, as we speak right now, the Hurricane Sally is making landfall up there as a Cat 2, And so we pray for those people. That thing's only moving about 2 or 3 miles an hour, so they're going to get walloped for a long period of time. The storm itself is not that strong. It's a low category 2, but the fact that it's essentially not moving, similar to what happened down in the Bahamas a while back, could be devastating. Prayers out to them. We need to pray for them. Representative Abigail, here's another one of the people that's a bit upset with Miss Nancy. Representative Abigail Spanberger, Democrat from Virginia, who sits in a GOP-leaning seat, in other words, no one of those seats that Trump could help take back, she said, my conviction is to actually do my GD job. See, my mama, she'd gone, God rest her soul, but she'd come out the grave and snatch my head if I said words like this. My conviction is to actually do my GD job and come up with a solution for the American people. We have to bring something to the floor. So why won't Nancy budge, man? Why won't she budge on this? Well, let me read you these next couple of paragraphs, and I think you'll get the idea. Pelosi and senior Democrats argue their strategy is the only way to ensure Democrats don't simply cave to a GOP proposal. In other words, that they don't have a bipartisan agreement. See, they don't want, right there, that statement alone absolutely clarifies what I said. The Democrats are afraid to get into a bipartisan, in other words, where they actually cave to the Republicans in any way. That's not bipartisanship. That's sellout. And when Republicans sell out, it's bipartisanship, and they sell out far too often. But Democrats don't simply cave to a GOP proposal that would fail to address major sectors of the economy. You're right. Yeah. So they're making it sound like, this article's making it sound like that the Republicans are holding up American working people getting unemployment and getting a stimulus check and businesses getting loans and that kind of thing. That's not the holdup. Trust me on that, and you'll see in a minute. That would fail to address major sectors of the economy, most especially aid to state and local governments. Aid. It's bailout. That's what it is. To local governments who are facing a potentially catastrophic loss of revenue. And I like how they say most especially aid to state and local governments. It's a bailout for the big blue cities and blue states. That's what the Republicans are opposing. That is what Pelosi and her cronies are trying to do. They're trying to bail out people like Cuomo and de Blasio. That kind of rhymes, doesn't it? Cuomo and de Blasio. That's what it is, a bailout. And that's what's holding this up. I don't know if you watched any. I started to talk a lot about it, but no huge news came out of it last night. But Donald Trump, man, if he didn't see it, might want to watch some video of it. Donald Trump was on ABC, did kind of a town hall thing last night with George Stephanopoulos. And you might question, why would Trump do something like that? Kind of like the interviews with Bob Woodward. But I got to tell you, the president was on top of his game. The questions, some of them were even rude to a certain extent, but he handled it very, very well. But one of the things that came out of that, one of the exchanges between him and Stephanopoulos, kind of ties into this, because Stephanopoulos asked President Trump, when the president was talking about blue states and Democrat-run states, and Stephanopoulos asked him, why do you call them blue states? Why do you call them Democrat-run states? But besides the obvious that that's what they are. And Stephanopoulos tried to make a point and kind of a gotcha thing, saying, well, aren't you president of all the United States? They're not blue states or red states. They're United States. And I wish that were true. But the reality is they are blue and red states when they're run by Democrats. If you look at every city that is essentially on fire right now, it is run by a Democrat. And usually there's not only a mayor Democrat, but there's a Democrat at the top of the ticket in the governorship. So Donald Trump actually said, I don't want to call him that, but I have to do that. And he's trying to tell you, the American people, what is actually happening. And of course, the Democrats, led by Speaker Pelosi and people like Governor Cuomo in New York, they want to be bailed out for their bad decision making. So they're looking at the coronavirus and relief from COVID-19 as a way to bail them out from bad spending policies and make it so they're not accountable to their voters. And Donald Trump is determined to try to make them accountable. That's what this is all about. But here's what Pelosi said. She said, a skinny deal is not a deal. She said, it is a Republican bill, a skinny deal. So she cares, as I said, more about her power than your wallet. President Trump and the Republicans want to put cash in your pocket right now. They're wanting to put another stimulus check out to pretty much all American taxpayers, and they're wanting to put back in federal unemployment. It won't be the huge amount that ended up people making more money unemployed than when they working. It's a little bit less, but nonetheless they want to do it. But unemployment shouldn't be more than you were making before, because then there's no incentive to work. But that's what the Democrats want to push their agenda, and I'm going to explain more about that in just a moment, because it's all about their agenda. Pelosi has strong backing from progressive groups and labor unions, imagine that, who are demanding that Congress pass a robust stimulus bill in order to help battered economy. And it's kind of like the teachers' unions. The teachers' unions are a good example of the unions they're talking about. Teachers' unions don't want to go back to school. Now, you could make a case that maybe they shouldn't for COVID or whatever, but they still want to get paid the same as if they were actually teaching. Now, think about that. How could your business run if you had to pay employees to stay home and you didn't get that government money to do it, and they weren't working? How long could you afford to do that? A day, a week? Certainly not months. But the teachers' unions and other government unions expect the government to pay, which is you, by the way, your money, to pay them to stay at home. It's just not right. And not only should we not pay them to stay at home, if they're going to stay at home, we should get a rebate for all the tax money that we're paying out. That's the way I see it. But of course, that wouldn't be bipartisan, would it? Many economists fear the United States is on the verge of a long-term downturn unless more dramatic steps are taken by the federal government. You know what steps need to be taken? Like that judge's ruling yesterday. We talked about it on yesterday's show. A Pennsylvania judge and a Trump appointee, and Donald Trump mentioned this last night in his ABC town hall, that one of the things he's most proud of is all the judges, not just the Supreme Court judges, but across the federal bench, that he's been able to appoint a record number of them, I think, and probably going to be his longest lasting legacy, no matter what, actually, other than maybe these peace accords yesterday. I was going to talk a bit about that. I mean, Donald Trump, man, he won the Nobel Peace Prize yesterday. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Now, will he actually get it? Probably not. But in spirit, Donald Trump won the Nobel Peace Prize yesterday when they had that historic signing at the White House between the two Arab nations and Dubai, I think, and Bahrain, Arab Emirates, that kind of thing, and Israel yesterday, a part of what they call the Abraham Accords. Donald Trump won it. Now, they probably won't give it to him, but it's here. He ought to just go over and take the dadgum thing. But what we need to do, ladies and gentlemen, getting back to what I said about yesterday's show, is we need to reopen the various state economies. We need to reopen them. And there was a ruling by this judge that Pennsylvania has to reopen. Now, the governor, of course, Wolf there, who apparently is a piece of work. A lot of my listeners in Pennsylvania tell me this guy's nothing but trouble. But he's appealing it, of course, and we'll keep you posted on it. But if you want to check out, I did an in-depth thing about it yesterday. Go to John Martin Talks Facebook page, like it, share it with others. Check out our YouTube channel, John Martin Talks, spell it all the way out. Our shows are archived there. They're on Twitter as well, at John Martin Talks. They're about a day or two behind on that, but we get them up there. And then, of course, a good way to see our show, not only live in the morning, howdy on Facebook, is America's Voice News, but they also rebroadcast our show as a late night, I guess, comedy show. Maybe we're seriously entertaining. That's one of my goals here, on their streaming service. And you can download a free app with your iPhone and Android. There are free apps for that. It's all your streaming channels, basically, or services like Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV. We're on Dish Network, channel 219, and Pluto Network, and they archive our show on their streaming site on America's Voice News. Check it out. We're honored to be a part of that. But we need to open up the U.S. economy, and it's not up to President to do it. He's recommending that we do it. It ultimately comes down to the states to do that, and that's why that ruling by that judge was so important. So The only way we're going to fix this thing long term is to reopen the states completely. You got to assess your risk, ladies and gentlemen. It's never, let me just tell you this, it's never been safe to leave the cave. So I'm all for you as an individual assessing your own risk, but risk we must take. It's never been safe. It's never going to be safer than now. And if we wait for the experts to give us the all clear, it will never happen and our country will be destroyed. Just my opinion, but an opinionated fact nonetheless. Pelosi tried to appease her caucus Tuesday, telling them in the morning call that the House wouldn't depart Washington until there is a coronavirus funding compromise, but she later reneged on that a little bit and said, hey, you can leave as long as you're prepared to come back at basically a moment's notice. But Pelosi said, we have to stay here until we have a bill. She doesn't want to give the president a victory at all, because if they did an actual bipartisan agreement and compromise with the Republicans, which is not going to happen, it would be historic if it did, basically, then Donald Trump might get a victory. The economy might bounce back just before the presidential election, which it's already doing in places that are open up. And they are deathly afraid of that. They'd rather see the country go down the tubes. They, the progressive Democrats, which is essentially the Democratic Party, they'd rather see the country go down the tubes than to risk 4 more years of Donald Trump, man. That's just the way it is. Many Democrats said they felt torn, talking about these House members, Democrat House members, anxious to get at least some money out the door because they're worried about their seats, and they should be, without caving to a GOP bill that shortchanges the most desperate Americans. Yeah, right. Man, there's so much bias in the media. You know the desperate Americans that the Republican bill would shortchange? Mario Cuomo and Bill de Blasio. Those are the desperate Americans that they're talking about here. It's all about, there's 2 big things that the Democratic bill has. The biggest money deal is the bailing out of the blue states. It's just the way it is. And the second one you will see in just a moment. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, said she has wrestled with the issue. I can see her wrestling with the issue. People might pay money for that. Maybe me and her should wrestle. She has seen the pandemic's devastating influence back home. She doesn't care about the pandemic's devastating influence back home. If she cared about that, why would she have squashed the Amazon deal, which would have brought 25,000 jobs to her district, by the way? I mean, we could get into a whole story on that. We've talked about it before. Check out our podcast, told you how to do it. She said, this administration, talking about President Trump, it seems what they want is to cut another $1,200 check, but they don't want to actually provide state and local aid, Ocasio, in other words, bailouts. That's what they always talk about, aid. It's not aid, it's a bailout. Ocasio, that's one thing about, you're always going to get the truth here. She said listen to this, and to see if it reminds you of anyone. Ocasio, of course, said that $1,200 is a nice little sugar high. A sugar high. What is it with these Democrats, man? That money, like in the tax bill that Donald Trump got passed with Republicans, that put average of $2,000 back in the average of working Americans' paycheck, essentially. That, what did Nancy Pelosi call it, Billy Bob? Oh, yeah, that's right. Crumbs. Little old crumbs. And little old $2,000 is crumbs to Nancy Pelosi. She's got more than $2,000 worth of ice cream in her freezer. And her refrigerators cost like $5,000 a piece. So no wonder it's crumbs. But what is it with these Democrats who say they're for poor people, which of course they want all of us to be poor, because then we'd be diehard Democrats. If you're the party of the poor, what do you need? More poor, right? But a sugar high, Ocasio, of course. So $1,200 is just a sugar high, and $2,000 more in your pocket with the tax bill is just crumbs. I mean, what is it with these? You talk about elitists, man. These people are crazy. But Pelosi has roundly resisted calls from some Democrats to negotiate a smaller coronavirus deal or put targeted bills. See, this is what some of these Democrats that are rebelling want. They want targeted bills addressing specific issues like money for unemployment. Instead of this big omnibus bill, they want targeted bills. And Nancy is rejecting that. Specific aspects of the pandemic, including testing, unemployment aid, and small business loans. See, it's not really about helping people, but pushing their progressive agenda. And you're going to see in just a moment. Let me adjust something here. Sorry about that. You're going to see in just a moment exactly what I'm talking about. Listen to this right here. Pelosi has indicated she would negotiate a $2.2 trillion package with Republicans, but hasn't been open to going below that number. So the Republicans are proposing a short-term thing of $500 billion, and Nancy wants $2.2 trillion. Now, you may turn around and say, well, man, the Democrats are trying to put more money in my pocket. Not so fast. It is not what you think. So what they want is cash for state and local governments, or, and here's the big one, you're waiting on it, drum roll, the Postal Service. Yeah, it's the Postal Service, man. I mean, the Democrats are all about the Postal Service. Remember back during the DNC, go back and look at some of those tapes. We talked about this when they had their convention. Violence in the streets, the cities burning, the states burning up, not a peep, not zero crickets, man. But every one of the speakers just about, and certainly Biden in his acceptance speech, talked about the post office because they're setting up, they want money to steal the election. They're not about stimulus money, putting checks in your account or a bit small business loans. They could pass that tonight, today. It's about the Postal Service because they want billions of dollars to do an all mail-in ballot across the country and steal the election. That's what this is about, man. It keeps coming back to the Postal Service and the all mail-in ballot. The holdup is not the Republicans. The holdup is Trump derangement syndrome. And Pelosi would sacrifice the members of the House just to stop Donald Trump because she is insane. And that tells you how insane she really is. I'll sum it up with this. As I told you earlier in the show, when you understand a core principle of someone, or a core, maybe not principle, some foundation they have, Nancy, you understand everything they do. Pelosi's all about holding on to her own position and power. The only thing that trumps that, pardon the pun, is Trump derangement syndrome. She hates Donald Trump. She's praying for him to fall on a sword. She hates him so much that she's even willing to risk her own power in order to stop Donald Trump. She also realizes that the key to holding on to her power is to stop Donald Trump. So once again, it circles back to her. All right, we're going to move along here to our next story, but keep this in mind. It's not, back to that last story, just want to say it again. It's not about putting money, crumbs in your, or your sugar high. It's about the Postal Service and trying to steal the election. That's what the holdup is, and we can't let that happen. So I think that Donald Trump is doing the right thing. All right, this is a Breitbart article we're going to get to, and it's all about guns, maybe. Guns. And once again, if you don't want to stand in line to buy a gun, check out our sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited. Go to the description of our show, which is above every video we do, no matter where you're looking at it. Click on that sponsorship link. It takes you to Big Daddy Unlimited, and you can find factory direct pricing delivered straight to your house, guns, ammo, tactical gear, everything else at Big Daddy Unlimited BDU, and you'll be helping yourself and the John Martin Talk Show at the same time. All right, Breitbart article, demand for guns overwhelming FBI background checks. People are just buying guns. They can't keep them on the shelf. They can't keep them in stock. The gun industry is trying, they're working round the clock trying to manufacture guns and everything else. But people are lined up. You don't want to wait in line. Go to BDU. Go to their sponsorship page. The current demand for guns in America is so great that the FBI's National Instant Criminal Background Check, otherwise known as NICS, is giving a higher number of delays. It's supposed to take 3 days. It's taking a lot longer. And in many cases, allowing the sale to be completed because time for checks expires. Why are people buying so many guns? To protect themselves from the KKK, right? That's what from the Nazis and the KKK. Give me a break, man. Do you really believe that? Does anybody actually believe that? But that's the story from the left, right? But it's more likely because of scenes like this one right here. Remember this picture? I'm not going to play the video, but there they are, the McCloskeys, heroes of mine. I told you when this happened that this was going to be a turning point for America, and I believe that it's being borne out in these weapon sales. People, when it is illegal to defend your own home, keep in mind the McCloskeys called the police The police never came until like 2 weeks later, and they came to arrest these law-abiding citizens for the legally possessed firearms they had. So when you can't protect you, when it becomes a crime to protect your own home against the mob, well, that resonates with people of all walks of life, because that's, it's a fundamental, not just an American right with the Second Amendment, but I would maintain it is a basic human right to protect your home and hearth, to protect your family and your loved ones. I think is not only an essential human right, but one that, sorry about this, these headphones, I got a gremlin pulling on me, that it is essential, it is an obligation. I don't know how else to put it. It's an obligation as a person to protect your family. And so I applaud the McCloskeys. They're heroes of mine. Or maybe people are buying guns because of people like this. I mean, if you see that marching down your street, that's Antifa, by the way, and that is how they actually look, but they're mostly peaceful. Nah, not really. That might want you to buy guns. Or maybe it's your defense. You know what they talk about peace? Oh, well, what is that chant? They go, no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Well, maybe people want to defend their peace. Check out this video. This was just a week or so ago. I believe this one is from Rochester, New York, where people are minding their own business, and the next thing you know, mostly peaceful protesters come in and, disrupt their peace. Check it out. You can't hardly hear it there, but with all the chaos, but there's a guy that's walking through it, and he says, if you don't give us our S and use the S word, no peace. So basically, if you don't give them something, you owe them something. I mean, so think about this, ladies and gentlemen. People want to live in peace. Most people, regardless of skin color, just want to have peace. They just want to go to work. They want to take care of their families, maybe enjoy some of the fruits of their labor. And let me tell you, this is going to stop at some point. And I can tell you that if there's places like, I was telling a friend of mine the other day that that wouldn't work in a couple of restaurants that I frequent, because there'd be people packing in those restaurants and they'd have to move along, man. Let me just ask you this. The people who are being attacked there, the people who are lined up to buy guns in all creeds and colors, who you think they're going to vote for come November? That's why I say this is a poll you can bank on. Because I'm telling you, if they're woke at all and they're exercise their Second Amendment rights, they really don't have a choice. And I'll explain that more in just a moment. Overall, the number of these background checks conducted March 2020 through July 2020 was up 93%. So the number of background checks, in other words, people purchasing guns during that quarter that they registered this and the quarter from a year before, was almost 100%, 93% when compared to the same time period in 2019. 40% of the people, and we talked about this in previous shows, that are buying guns during the same period, 40% of them are first-time gun owners. First time, think about that. First-time gun owners. And of course, black Americans are at record highs in buying guns. You really think that they're worried about what did Chris Rock said in the thing? He can't do his comedy anymore much because it's not politically correct. He talked about, I remember there's a routine he did where like a black guy's going to an ATM looking over his shoulder, and he said he ain't looking for Ted Koppel. He's looking for some of these gang members. But black Americans are buying guns at an all-time high. And just on a side note, did you know that the NRA, who's going through a lot of troubles right now, of course, and we got some things in the works that might actually help you if you're an NRA member. We'll talk about that in another. Just put a teaser out there. But the NRA, in part, was founded to actually give former slaves their Second Amendment rights, to ensure their second, not give it, but ensure their Second Amendment rights. Most people don't know that because the mainstream media will never tell you. So with all the fault or problems the NRA is having right now, at their core, we might not have a Second Amendment without the NRA. So let's just say it right now because it might have been killed before. But think about that. The NRA was founded shortly after the Civil War, in part to actually ensure that former slaves that were now American citizens actually could exercise their Second Amendment rights. Probably won't hear that anywhere but a place like this. Back to the story. Breitbart News reported that August was the eighth consecutive month for record background checks for gun sales. Now, what's been happening consistently the last 8 months? It's not the rise of the KKK and the Nazis, I can tell you that. What it is the rise of Black Lives Matter and Antifa, that they're taking over major American cities and parts of them, that they literally formed their own nation out in Seattle a while back. Remember that? And what happened out there? 2 young black males were killed in that. So black people, and I'm not trying to speak up for them, but hey, a blind man can see this. They're buying guns to protect their own homes, like the McCloskeys did, from the mob, which is not all black, by the way. Black Lives Matter, a lot of the worst hooligans are white with Antifa as well. So they're just trying to protect themselves, and I get it, man. But it says, beginning in January 2020 and proceeding through August, each month has set a record for the most checks conducted in respective months. So people are buying guns. So who are they going to vote for? Well, I don't think they got a choice. If you care about the Second Amendment, period, I'm going to tell you right now, you could be a snowflake and bought a gun. You can be black and never voted anything but Democrat, never voted at all and bought a gun. You can be whatever color of the rainbow you might want to be. But let me tell you a truth. If you care about your Second Amendment rights, you only have one choice come November 3rd. You've got to vote for Donald Trump, because Joe Biden is going to take your Second Amendment rights away. Now, maybe not the Joe Biden of 1994 when he told black Americans, I don't care what, we just got to put your hoodlum thug predator children in prison. Go back and check that out. We'll play it again soon. But Joe Biden might have been pro-Second Amendment at one time, but the empty vessel, the Trojan horse that Joe Biden is now, he is coming for your guns. And he admitted it himself. I'm going to play 2 back-to-back videos that, as I say, take these progressives. One of my axioms here as well, is you don't have to guess where these progressives are coming from. Because of Trump derangement syndrome, they have been emboldened to just tell you exactly what they're going to do. All you have to do is take their word for it. So if you are a person who has been exercising their Second Amendment rights, there's 2 things you need to do. Check out our sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited, and vote Donald Trump, because here's what the candidate himself, the progressive, tell you. We're going to play Beto Paco, as I call him. The guy's so ashamed of what he's doing, he won't even take the name his mama gave him, because he's supposed to be Robert Francis O'Rourke. But this is what he said in the 2020 debates about guns. Check it out.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
So there you go. He tells you, what is it? HELL hockey sticks. Hell yes, I'm going to take your guns. I mean, how much more clear could it be than that? And then if you say, well, he didn't win, but what about the guy that is trying to be the next president of the United States? Joe Biden. Check out what he said in accepting Beto's endorsement a while back. Check it out.
I'm going to guarantee you this is not the last year seeing this guy. You're going to take care of the gun problem with me. You're going to be the one who leads this effort. I'm counting on you. I'm counting on you.
There you go.
We need you badly. The state needs you.
Biden's telling Beto O'Rourke, who just told you, hell yes, I'm coming for your guns, that you're going to be in charge of my gun policy. So if you're a new gun owner out there, if you're a black American buying guns in record numbers, or if you're just a gun owner in general or thinking about getting one, who do you think you should vote for? I mean, to me, the choice is about as clear as it can be. All right, we only got a couple minutes left, which is just plenty enough time. I want to play 2 quick videos because we talked about Biden being a Trojan horse. Who's really in charge? What do you call it, a Freudian slip, which basically means you told the truth. First, check out Kamala Harris, like on Saturday, I think she said this. Then we're going to follow it up very quickly with a Joe Biden snippet that he did, I believe, yesterday, or maybe it was a couple of days. But check it out. Here's Kamala Harris first.
Administration together with Joe Biden. A Harris administration together with Joe Biden.
A Harris administration. So she's telling you a Harris administration. So she knows that she's going to be the de facto president. And Joe Biden, in a moment maybe of clarity or a Freudian slip, he agrees with her. Check this out.
Harris-Biden administration is going to relaunch that effort and keep pushing. Harris-Biden administration is going to
Harris-Biden administration. As I say, take them at their word. Kamala Harris is going to be the next president of the United States if Joe Biden actually wins. God help us. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page, like it and share it with others. Check out our YouTube channel, John Martin Talks, spell it out. Remember our sponsor, Big Daddy Unlimited, at the description of our show above wherever you're watching it. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Let's all pray for this great United States of America. But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.